Oh, baby, it's the Dynasty Roundtable, and we're coming at you with another rookie mock draft. We've fired up our super sophisticated spreadsheet. As you can see, the graphics people still have not come back from their vacation on the Bahamas or Tahiti or wherever people take vacations. I wouldn't know because, we're always doing this. But hey, I mean, there are worse things you can do than a rookie mock draft, right?
Far worse things.
Yeah. like yeah, exactly. I mean, we could be digging ditches or who knows what. We could be shoveling snow out here somewhere. We
We're
could
not
keep
shoveling much snow down here in Texas.
Oh, well, not you, but man, Kansas City got blasted not too long ago, and it looks like we're going to get some more snow next week. So it's
Well,
one of those things.
it's interesting. We opened the show talking about the snow and the Bears fan. Of all things, I was
Hmm.
very sure that you were going to kick off this pod gloating whatever it may
Hmm.
be about
Hmm.
Ben Johnson. So we have a little
Hmm.
bit of time. The floor is yours, real quick. Ben Johnson expected to be the next head coach of the Bears.
Not expected to be. He's flying in to sign his contract, and he's
Well, it
already
hasn't been
talking
the contract. I
about.
say that because the contract hasn't been fully
Yeah,
signed and
I got.
executed.
I guess
That's why
George
I say that.
McCaskey could fly him in coach. I guess that could happen. Still, if he isn't already landed in Chicago at O'Hare Airport. But yes, Ben Johnson. I think this is the guy. This is the man for the job. I would have been happy with Mike McCarthy as well. I know some people would poo-poo that, but Mike McCarthy, if you look at his record, it's really good. You look at his track record developing quarterbacks, really good. I know he looks like a beat cop, an overweight beat cop, so we kind of go, Mike McCarthy, and he's lost in the playoffs a lot. But Ben Johnson, hopefully he's Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay 2.0, the Chicago Bears version, because it was clear in all these silly rumors, man. Las Vegas Raiders with Tom Brady, get out of here. That never had a chance of happening.
Never
We
had a
knew it.
quarterback. They don't have the offense. It was never going to happen.
They're a terrible team, and I get it. The Bears are in the NFC North, and the Lions are going to be good. The Vikings are still going to have Kevin O'Connell. The Packers are good, but the AFC West with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid from now until the end of time. Oh, by the way, Patrick Mahomes is not yet 30 years old.
Yep.
Let that sink in for a moment. Yeah, all of a sudden you have Bo Nick showing up out of nowhere with Sean Payton. I'm sure Sean Payton will stick around with him for as long as he can coach.
Yep.
And then I don't know. There's this other coach, this nobody named Jim Harbaugh in the division too. I'm sure that would have been a breeze for Ben Johnson. I can't imagine why he would choose the Bears over that situation. I mean, oh my God. But here we are. I think it's a good day for Chicago. I think it's a good day to be a Bears fan. I think we finally have some competency in the head coaching position. It really feels like George McCaskey got out of the way and just let Ryan Poles go get the most qualified candidate for the job. Hallelujah. Now let's go get an all-star coaching staff and let's make Caleb Williams a perennial Pro Bowler. If he can do that, he will have a statue named in his honor in Chicago. And if he wins a Super Bowl, forget about it. He'll be right there with Ditka.
Yeah, for
So,
real.
yeah. I don't think anybody's touching Michael Jordan from in
No.
Chicago sports ever. But yeah, it's a good day to be a Bears fan, and we can't really say that much. Usually the off season is when it's the best time to be a Bears fan because we have the number one pick. We have a top 10 pick. We're looking for the next coach. But I really feel like this is the time, and I know there's going to be some people in the chat saying the Bears will fuck this up or whatever. But this feels different. I don't know how you feel, but it feels different. And I think the Patriots and the Bears, both teams getting ahead of it, just going out there, getting their guy. I know the Patriots did some chicanery with the whole Rooney Rule thing, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember that. Nobody's going to care. You got the guy you wanted, and that's what matters in the end.
100%. I obviously preferred your candidate to mine, but at the end of the day, I could see both avenues working for both of these teams. It's rumored that Dennis Allen is being recruited by by Ben Johnson to be the Bears DC, which I actually really like. I think we get kind of caught
Yeah.
up in
Yeah.
how these coaches perform as head coaches, and so we look at Dennis Allen now and kind of be like, well, that's a goofball. Yeah, but he also led a really good defense in New Orleans. That was an aging, deteriorating roster. Over the hump guys in Cameron Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, losing guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson to other teams, still really maintained a hard-fighting, hard-nosed defense out in New Orleans. Vrabel's going to bring that aspect to New England. So I think, your job is get a good DC right now. Our job is get a good OC. And right now I feel like our team's job is a heck of a lot tougher than your team's job. But all things could fall into place perfectly for both of these squads.
Yeah, and they could be two teams that turn things around relatively quickly because both the Patriots and the Bears have talented young quarterbacks, and I know some people want to say Caleb Williams didn't have a very good year. I mean, if you just look at the stats, and I get it, he took way too many sacks. The coaching around him was an absolute disaster. I mean, the Bears fired their offensive coordinator and head coach mid-season. They'd never done any one of those things, and they did them both in the same season. And I think I saw something today where Caleb Williams actually avoided 50 sacks. I could be off on that because the news was just flowing today. And Dan Orlovsky said something dumb like Caleb needs to get better at avoiding sacks, and he was like number 1 in avoiding sacks this year or something.
That's the incorrect call out. He doesn't need to be better at avoiding sacks. He is very good at avoiding sacks.
Yeah.
He needs to be better about getting the ball out earlier.
Bingo.
Such that he's not put in that situation. Because you watch one Bears game and you watch him avoid 5 potential sacks, on a single play. I don't know how that is necessarily graded and how that goes into the stat book. But you watch him weaving around. The only thing is the ball should have gotten thrown away or tucked and ran before he got put into that situation. So that's what he needs to fix. And you saw spots of it. You saw spots. I think there were a lot of issues in the way the offense was being ran. So he was being put in a position where Caleb's like, okay, I can't just throw the ball away every play. I can't just tuck it and run every play. So I don't have much of a choice but to sit here and try to make something work. It's easy from the broadcast booth to say, throw the ball away, tuck and run. But when that's every play, there has to be a line in the sand where, as a quarterback, that this is not sustainable. So you got to hope that going into next year, you build your offensive line back up. You have competent play calling, competent schemes, and that truly enables Caleb Williams, because you see what Washington was able to do and just giving Jaden Daniels easy buttons and letting him pick up the game, process the game. That worked out so well for them, and you got to think that you try and map that over. But Ben Johnson unlocked Jared Goff. That's no disrespect to Jared Goff, but I have full confidence that Caleb. And you look at his numbers; they weren't even that bad. Like he was QB 21 in fantasy points per game, so there were 11 starting quarterbacks that were worse than him. He almost had, he was at 3,541 yards, so he's only 460 yards short of being the Bears' first 4,000-yard passer. And what's ridiculous is that Caleb's expectation as a rookie was to hit that. Like, his expectation was to break that record and have the best rookie or best Bears passing season in forever. So
And he had, and not to, harp on this too much, but there's a couple of stats here that are really weird to me. Like, you remember the one game where, I don't know, he just had 81 rushing yards and then it never happened again. Like, that I think he can do. I think that was week 11, right? Week 11 against Green Bay, 70 rushing yards. And then since week 12, 33, 39, 27, 3, 34, 37, 10. So in that game, there was an emphasis put on, okay, Caleb, if it's not there, just take off, which I don't know why. I mean, he clearly is talented in that department, so I don't know why he didn't utilize that more often. I get it. You don't want him to get killed, but I understand people were saying his deep ball accuracy wasn't very good, but for fantasy, he was number 1 in deep ball attempts and number 5 in air yards. And if he can rein in the accuracy and if the scheme is better, it could be really good for players like DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, or not Keenan Allen, but Rome Odunze next year. If Keenan Allen comes back, then yes, it'll be good for him. But if he doesn't, then, Rome Odunze, I think, is going to be elevated. And we were talking before the show, probably elevated too highly for us, maybe in Dynasty. But we'll see. We'll see where the market shakes out. But 10 minutes into a Dynasty rookie mock draft video, and we haven't started the Dynasty rookie mock draft, so we might have to put some timestamps on this. So
let's get into it then. We got we have a super flex rookie draft here, top 24, 2 rounds. On the player section, you'll see some landing spots in round 1. We're going off of Dane Brugler's most recent mock draft over on The Athletic / the New York Times. Everything past that will just kind of be our speculation, and I won the coin toss backstage, which was not really a coin toss. Regardless, I won the Ashton Jeanty lottery. So I get to select Ashton Jeanty here for the 101. Still is, whether we're talking landing spots or no landing spots yet, he is the 101, especially if we're going to consider the Broncos in round 1 going into the Sean Payton offense, which did try to establish quite often. Sean Payton's MO was clearly, let's make the game as simple, as slow for Bo Nix as we possibly can. And they did a really good job of it. The only part was, whether it was Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, they couldn't get the run game going at all. So they were super one-dimensional, and they relied on a lot of gimmicks, a lot of scheming people open. And we saw what happens when Bo Nix is contained to the Broncos offense. And they're really, really, really limited when that happens. So getting a guy like Jeanty that they could truly not only just pound the rock with, but have that bell cow format to where they can disguise a lot of what they want to do. They have a capable pass catcher that they can insert. A lot of this really is fantasy friendly. He's going to a good scheme, a running back friendly head coach. All positives, and nothing will take Jeanty down from the 101 unless he falls out of round 1, in my opinion.
Agree. That's would have been my pick. And now I'm in an interesting spot because I have been the Travis Hunter hype manager, hype train, get aboard, right? I've been basically the only person saying I think Travis Hunter is going to play more wide receiver than we think. But he went to the Giants, and the Giants already have Malik Neighbors, and I would hate that. It would be great on a fantasy, a Madden game, to have Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors potentially both at wide receiver. And I get it. There's a good possibility, as I already said, he plays cornerback. So I think I'm begrudgingly going to take Tet McMillan here. And because I like the landing spot more than I do for Travis Hunter, because we get Drake May, and we know Tet McMillan has been a productive wide receiver in just about every college season he's been in. So begrudgingly, I don't love it. I was tempted to go in several directions, but these landing spots really kind of threw me for a loop. But I'll throw it back to you at the 103. To make your selection or comment on mine.
No, I agree with the thought process there. I think it's a good process to talk about this right now with Travis Hunter and put him in some ugly situations, because the game becomes so much easier, right? If the Patriots take Travis Hunter or something like that, and he's a full-time wide receiver, the game becomes a lot easier. It's probably Travis Hunter, if not number 2, number 3, something very similar to that. So good process there. I'm still not going to take Hunter here at the 103. It's a pretty gross situation. And let's be honest, if we're in a world where the Giants are taking Travis Hunter at that spot, it is to be a shutdown number 1 corner. That's just a fact. They are not foregoing on a quarterback to take their wide receiver 2. Now, whether or not he makes it into the wide receiver role, like we talked about in our show with Maddie and Cody, that remains to be seen, which is why I still can't put him at the 103. Instead, I'll take Kaleb Johnson.
Yeah, that landing spot.
Yeah,
that landing spot is so good.
Vikings. That is insane. We saw a clear, not only was Aaron Jones banged up throughout the season, Cam Akers really started making a push for more playing time. And I love Cam Akers. I've been very excited to see his resurgence. It makes me happy that, a once thought of guy who was going to be a elite producer, multiple Achilles injuries, is now back in a productive role. That makes me happy. But Kaleb Johnson coming in may not be a year one full explosion, but he's going to be a 1B if he's getting first round draft capital. If not the guy in
He's
Minnesota.
Going to be the guy. I'll tell you this. If they draft him in the first round, he's going to be the guy.
Admittedly, as I type, I don't know what Aaron Jones' contract is. He was just a free agent. So
he is a free agent, I think.
Oh, yeah. He only signed a 1-year deal. So there's a good shot that Aaron Jones isn't even back. So it makes me even more comfortable here with the 103. Incredible production profile at Iowa. Truly checks a lot of the boxes that you're looking for in a running back. Admittedly, I'm not an expert in film analysis, but the draft capital there, the usage in that offense, there's so much to love for Kaleb Johnson.
Yeah. And then I love the pick. I love both of your selections. So I'm going to have to get creative in order to catch up here, even though, I have the the second draft spot here. But this puts me in a predicament because this is super flex.
Yep.
Super flex, tight end premium, rookie draft. I could go safe, but I think then that makes your next pick. And again,
I'm taking Cam Ward.
I'm falling into the trap.
Right.
I'm falling into the Cody Carpentier trap.
Teams.
We're not drafting teams, so I'm just going to be boring and take the quarterback that gets taken number 1 overall, and it's Cam Ward. And this is simple. I think he's the best quarterback in the class. He goes with the number 1 pick to a quarterback-needy team, and it's not really the worst situation in the world if you really think about it.
No.
Offensive-minded head coach.
Yep.
They do have Calvin Ridley, who is not a horrible wide receiver. He's a pretty good wide receiver. And they have some work to do to put talent around him, but they have opportunities here and high draft picks and cap space. So
how much you want to bet they draft Xavier Restrepo?
Yeah, that would be a good fit for them.
And it really would be. Like you get him to, because you have your outside boundary guy in Calvin Ridley. Boyd is solid, but he's old. He's not your guy anymore. If you're going to take Cam Ward, at least get him something. If not Restrepo, somebody that he feels comfortable and wants to play with. But I really like the pick there. It was who I was going to go with. I've really became more bullish on Cam Ward, in part because if he's going to be going to that Titan situation that is pretty friendly, you have not only an offensive-minded head coach, but somebody who's worked with Burrow. And how big of a role he played is impossible to determine, but had some sort of role in developing Joe Burrow and that offense while he was there. So I really like that pick. If he feels like the safer quarterback to step in and be competent from a fantasy football perspective, I am going to reserve judgment on the upside of these two quarterbacks. I still don't really know how to quantify that. And I think the fact that I don't tells me what I think about their upside, and that it's limited.
Yep.
But at the 105 here, I will select the next man up. And again, Travis Hunter, it's still tough, but that pick to the Giants, I just have to imagine he's going to be a quarterback or a cornerback. So I'll take Luther Burden. Round 1 draft capital to the Dallas Cowboys here based on this mock. And that's an incredible fit. He's I'm not going to say a Debo kind of guy, but a guy who really is going to be able to work that open space. And you think about, okay, the Cowboys already have CeeDee Lamb, and what they've been missing is somebody is to actually draw attention, like into the middle of the field, free up those areas where CeeDee Lamb is running. And Luther Burden not only has the speed and skill to be able to be shifted outside and play those roles, because as we know, CeeDee Lamb, very effective in the slot, but it's not possible to roll him out in the slot as much as you want to without a true boundary guy, because then they're just going to bracket CD in the slot. It's going to be really hard to get him the ball. Luther Burden is going to be a problem because he can play in different phases. He has that afterburner to where if he catches that ball in the middle of the field with 5-6 yards of open space, he's going to turn it into 10-15 yards after the catch. But he's also technical. He's going to be able to work leverages. He's going to be able to beat zones. And I think that's really what the Cowboys want is a zone beating slot guy that isn't a pure gadget, right? He could be shifted. He could be moved around. So Luther Burden, round 1 to the Cowboys, really signals we need to be more offensively forward than we have been in the past few years. And that is worth being a top 5 overall rookie pick.
Yeah, I really like it because of all the things you mentioned. I think that landing spot makes a ton of sense for them, and it'll be interesting to see who they bring in at head coach as well, to see who they pair with Dak, if Dak is in their long-term plans, all these things, we'll get the answers to over the course of the offseason. So now I'm in another predicament. I get the sense that this 2 slot was not the ideal place to be in a draft like this, but oh well. And Travis Hunter is going to continue to fall here because I'm going to assume Omarion Hampton goes in round 2, and I'm going to assume that he gets a pretty decent landing spot because I'm looking at Tankathon right now, and you could argue that Jacksonville could use a running back. You could argue that New England potentially could use a running back. Who knows what Ben Johnson's going to want to do in Chicago? I mean, DeAndre Swift, remember, for all of you DeAndre Swift owners out there, I believe Ben Johnson was in Detroit when they traded him away for nothing, essentially. So Chicago, all of a sudden, could, depending on what they do, and I think they save $8 million, or I think it's $8 million of dead cap if they cut him. Mm-hmm. Dallas is in round 2. That's pretty intriguing. So the point is, there's a bunch of teams in this second round. Pittsburgh, if they don't bring Najee Harris back, Chargers. So many good landing spots for a running back. And I'm gonna bet that Omarion Hampton gets one of those spots and forego some of these round 1 options, that are super tempting. And I don't know. I don't know what's happening right now because I don't think we've done a draft, and we've done several at this point or by this point. And I don't think Travis Hunter's left the back half of the first round or the first half of the first round. Like, he hasn't gotten this far ever.
Well, I'll kick it right back to you with this. If we knew right now Travis Hunter was going to start as a cornerback and try and work in on offense, would he be a first round? Would you spend a first round draft pick on him?
In this situation, maybe a late first round pick. But this situation is the nightmare because of Malik Neighbors and because of the quarterback situation. Yep. Like, if they forego quarterback, and again, I guess they could bring in a Sam Darnold or a Kirk Cousins or somebody like that. But if they forego quarterback in the first round and they select Travis Hunter, you potentially have a situation where you're not the number 1 target. You're playing with a terrible quarterback with lame duck coach and GM. Like, holy shit, that just got real bad real quick.
Right.
So, like, this is if you're asking me where could Travis Hunter go, and I mean I have the list in front of me. I mean, I guess he could go to Tennessee, not likely because they're probably going to take a quarterback. Cleveland, that would be interesting. I don't think it would be as bad as the Giants. New England would be, I think, really good because I think there's a good chance that he would play wide receiver. Jacksonville would be interesting. I know they still have Christian Kirk and
it becomes
Brian
really,
Thomas Jr.
really
and Jacksonville would be another place you would think that would not be good. Just Carolina would be good, but I doubt if he falls that far.
No. Yeah.
So, like, as I'm looking at this, and maybe I should have looked at the draft order more closely, but there's a lot more landmines for Travis Hunter in the top 10 or the top 5 than there are good landing spots.
I'm going to continue compounding on what you're saying because I'm still not going to take Travis Hunter for all the list of things that we're saying here. And there's still one round one landing spot that really entices me here, and it's Emeka Egbuka.
There you go.
So I've been in love with his game for a while now. He was one of my top options going into last year's draft. And now he is projected based on this mock to go round one. That part I'm pretty confident in. I think he's a round one pick. To the Steelers, I actually like, and here's why. I had to make sure the truthers aren't around me. I don't think George Pickens is that good.
Oh.
I don't think he's that good.
Oh, no.
Here's the thing. You see a lot of balls that hit the ground when they're thrown to George Pickens, and there's a common factor in a lot of them. He is draped in coverage. They're all boundary passes that are granted, he's an explosive playmaker. But maybe he's a little bit closer to Jameson Williams than anything else in the fact that he's a big playmaker. Like, Egbuka is a sound receiver. He's going to be creating separation. He's going to be a quarterback's best friend because they can anticipate with him. George Pickens, I love the guy, but he's a wild card. Like, there's times he's not even running routes seriously, and you look at his route tree, and it's very limited. He's incredible on the slant. Like, that's something he's incredible at. Outside of that, it's a lot of boundary stuff where he's relying on contested catches, deep targets. And that's all fine and dandy. But when push comes to shove and you have a true route runner, like let's say we inserted Ladd McConkey into the Steelers offense this year. Who do you think finishes the season with more targets?
Oh, easily Ladd McConkey.
And that's where I'm not, I'm not comping him to Ladd McConkey in this sense, but that's kind of where I'm getting at, where somebody who could be like a safety blanket for this team. And granted, they really tried with Roman Wilson. I think it's very clear based on year one. And if they do go this route, they're not confident in Roman Wilson taking that leap. That happens in the NFL all the time. It's better for the Steelers just to, forego the sunk cost. But Egbuka, I think, turns into the target leader in this offense, and that really entices me.
Yeah, George Pickens' year to break out, for lack of a better term. Well, I will say breakout because he's never finished higher than 33rd in fantasy points per game, and we have 3 full seasons of that we can look at as a body of work. He had just 2 more targets than he did last year, 108 targets. Now, he did finish 16th in target share amongst wide receivers, number 8 in air yard share, but that's still not good enough for what is in air quotes an alpha wide receiver, because we know that the Steelers tried to add to their wide receiver room by trading for Brandon Ayuk. And we said it. We were talking about this in the fantasy, like a bunch of fantasy analysts were saying it. We were saying it. If that happens, obviously that's not good for George Pickens, especially in Dynasty. And what do you think the Steelers are going to do in the offseason? They're going to look to upgrade the offense. They're going to look to upgrade the wide receiver position because it wasn't good enough. So this pick makes all the sense in the world for them. And I will just say this. I think there's a chance that Egbuka would out-target George Pickens next year. I mean, it might be a long shot, but it's
I'll bet on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you get plus odds at DraftKings or whatever, depending on the odds, I think that might be a good bet because I get it. And we aren't sure who the quarterback is going to be. I would assume that there would be some interest in them bringing back Russell Wilson or maybe Justin Fields, especially if it's Justin Fields. Like, man, I saw Justin Fields throw a lot of short passes to DJ Moore that DJ Moore just made him look really good on. So I agree. I think it's a little bit, we have a lot of uncertainty there with quarterback, but in terms of target competition, I don't think it's as bad as it looks on paper with George Pickens being there. So with the 108, I think I just have to take the quarterback.
Damn.
And I get it. Cody Carpentier is not going to be happy with me. because I already have a quarterback.
You got 2 quarterbacks.
I have 2 quarterbacks, and my voice is cracking. But this is also super flex, and he goes to the Raiders. Who do the Raiders have now? There's this tight end that plays there.
Brock Bowers.
His name's Brock Bowers. And if you don't think that Brock Bowers is going to help out a rookie quarterback, I don't know what to tell you. And you got Tom Brady in charge now. They're not going to get a top-tier coaching candidate, so that's not going to be great. But who knows? Maybe you can talk Mike McCarthy into taking that job. That would be amazing for Shedeur Sanders. We'll see. Because it looks like, there's Jacksonville, Dallas. We know McCarthy's not going to go to Dallas. The options are kind of, not very good. New Orleans. So we'll see. There's a lot of uncertainty again with the Raiders, but I can't leave a quarter. I can't let Shedeur Sanders fall to the 109.
Yeah, I mean, that was gonna be my pick there. He's certainly not in a bad situation there in Vegas, and I almost went with him over Egbuka. I think about the quarterback landscape, and I look at that roster, and I'm like, okay, it's not great, right? They don't have a run game. They don't really have a coach. They don't have an identity. There are a lot of ways that this can go right, but there are even more ways that this could go wrong. And so that was kind of the lift for Egbuka there in this sense. With the 109, this is where things start to get a little bit tougher, but I'm going to go with Quinshon Judkins.
Wait a second. Nice pick.
Okay. I was like, did I go out of turn or something? Did I screw up? But
you
transferred from Mississippi State. Yeah. Sorry, Ole Miss. Transferred from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
1,500 yards his freshman year, 1,100 yards his sophomore year. And obviously the box score stats don't show up as heavily in Ohio State, but shows, why he kind of went there. He knew TreVeyon Henderson was there. He wanted to win a championship, wanted to get that national exposure, and he did. And what I really love, I think that block in the semifinals might get him, 15 extra picks onto his draft capital. That's the type of stuff that he brings. Like, it's so funny because Henderson and him are complete polar opposites. And Judkins is just a madman. He has all the grit, all the dog that you want in your running back. He has the vision. He has the ability to hit a hole. He also is going to be a solid pass blocker and just a guy you can rely on overall, whether it's, like what they're doing at Ohio State. If he gets into a backfield where there's a 1A, 1B type of situation, they can line him up in the eye and let him crack a linebacker or somebody to help a play develop. He'll do whatever needs to be done. And it's going to continue to be basically down to draft capital for Judkins and Henderson and landing spot between where I flip them. They're back-to-back in my rankings right now. But now that I think about it, I think Henderson probably gets drafted earlier. But in my rankings, agnostic of landing spot, I think they're both round 2 picks. So I'm going to lean Judkins still for right now. But it's really close.
Yeah, and we talked about all the good landing spots for running backs this year. I really do believe that this is the great reset at running back. I mean, in a super flex draft, we already have 4, and there's probably going to be at least 1 more in the first round. I am just going to end the skid here with Travis Hunter because I'm betting on the talent. If I'm at the 110, I'm going to shoot for the moon with the upside. Sure, could I take TreVeyon Henderson? Yeah, I guess I could. Could I take one of the tight ends? Could I take Tre Harris, who does have a lot of upside? Yeah, but to me, the guy on the board right now that has the most upside is Travis Hunter. So there you go. I will end the skid.
For sure. I get it. I think if I'm actually in that situation and someone hits my inbox at 110 and says, hey, I want to take Travis Hunter, I'm selling the pick to let him take Travis Hunter. I think in this situation, he seems like the perfect buyback opportunity. Where, look, it's the same thing as being a GM in the NFL. Like, what's your number one responsibility as a dynasty manager? Don't fuck up your first round pick.
Yep.
And now it's not the same. Like, you're not killed, especially if you're at the back 3 picks, right? You could end up you can afford to waste a first round pick, but I still lean. I'm less risk averse in wasting first round picks after I have spent them on the DeAndre Swifts, on the Cam Akerses, on the J.K. Dobbinses of the world. Enough is enough. But Travis Hunter obviously is a different breed. We're kind of talking about a different situation that's not necessarily talent based. I'll run it right back with the other Ohio State running back. I'll take TreVeyon Henderson. Not much of a speech I need to give for him. Very much the same reasons as Judkins, except he just profiles as a different type of back. Both are going to succeed in the NFL level.
And I won't waste any time in taking Tre Harris.
Lovely.
So, again, a lot of upside. Bigger wide receiver from Ole Miss, who I think is really versatile and I think is going to be the perfect selection for like if you're in this spot. I need to for some reason delete and insert. I'm messing these things up with the spreadsheet. But if you're in the spot, you won the championship, and you have the ability to take Tre Harris at the 112, just good job.
Yep.
Good job. Good job on you. Or Travis Hunter for that matter. I mean, I get it. It's your first round pick, but if I'm in that spot, I'm shooting for. I mean, because we've seen it before with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson fell to like the 110, 111 in some rookie drafts. So this happens in rookie drafts. Tre Harris is the guy, is my target in the late first round, and I think we're in lockstep on that. So,
yeah.
Any final thoughts about this round 1, or do you just want to go straight into round 2?
No, I think we should. I mean, unless you have any final thoughts, I think this went pretty status quo for what the projections were. Obviously, Hunter is going to be the big wild card there, but I think the second round is really, again, like I don't know if the draft is going to change my opinion on this, but man, I just start really feeling less confident in all these picks that I make here. And I could just continue hammering running back here if I wanted to, and I think that's probably what I'm going to do. There's a receiver that I could get behind, but I think I just want to stick with what I know, stick to my guns, and go with Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee.
Yep.
We've talked about it a lot, the great reset at running back, and there's a lot of electric playmakers that can be 60+% opportunity share guys in the NFL, and Dylan Sampson is one of them. We loved Jalen Wright coming out of Tennessee last year, and I think for all the same reasons we love Dylan Sampson, except he does profile to be a little bit more of a complete back, albeit it is mostly just due to his size. But while I don't believe that you have to be 200 pounds to be a productive running back at the next level, I do think you have to have that certain build to be a elite back in the NFL. Truly all around, like you're fighting to be one of the top dogs in all of Dynasty at the running back position. Dylan Sampson fits that mold a little bit better than Jalen Wright did coming out, and he's nearing the end of the running backs that like I'm in love with. And so I was thinking about Restrepo to have some table talk there, but I still love Dylan Sampson as a prospect a little, more than I like Restrepo.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna. It's always weird with tight ends because like some people are probably yelling at us. There's 2 first-round tight ends still on the board. I do like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. I'm not in love with either one of them as a prospect. I like, not love. And for that reason, it's between 2 players for me at this pick. Neither one of them are a tight end. I'm just going to go with one of my favorite players in the whole draft, and I'm going to lean into the strength of the draft, and that is Devin Neal. Devin Neal, just go watch him play, and you tell me what you think, because I think he's a very patient runner. He's a very productive runner at Kansas, back-to-back-to-back seasons of 1,000 yards rushing. And I've continued to say it. His running style is very similar to Le'Veon Bell. Now, will he be Le'Veon Bell? Probably not. But this is, like we've already said, there's a lot of good teams that could use a running back and could use a running back to start next year. So, I have a feeling that Devin Neal is going to be one of those players. And Pittsburgh, because of the Le'Veon Bell thing, I wonder if they see what I see in Devin Neal, because that would be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely would be. And I'm going to take a receiver here. This is tough, because if we were to say right now that Xavier Restrepo went to Tennessee and we have that shower narrative between the two of them, I really do think there's something to that. It's chemistry, right? And Cam Ward's not going to have to worry about what Xavier Restrepo's doing. It's just going to happen. I think it makes a lot of sense on paper. Hold on, not quite yet. Not quite yet. But when you look at it, are they going to spend the third pick in the second round on Xavier Restrepo? Probably not. So we're looking at, does Restrepo fall late enough into the second or into the third where Tennessee can take him? Oh, wait, what's that? Tennessee doesn't have their third round pick. They don't have a third round pick. So we're talking about Tennessee taking him there or never really taking him for a while. I think I'm going to go with somebody who's going to really rise up the boards here through the Senior Bowl process, and that's Jalen Royals. I've come around quite a bit since you introduced me to him, so I will certainly always give you credit whenever I reference him, that you were the one that put me on. But you take a look at some of these landing spots on Tankathon for a guy like Jalen Royals to slot in, and like Washington in the late second round comes to mind. That feels like a good fit. You have a bunch of more options like Baltimore later on in the draft, in the second round, Carolina, Buffalo potentially. They probably not. They do have a few picks within the first three rounds. And then even in the early third, like maybe New England takes a stab at him, maybe Jacksonville for their wide receiver too. There's plenty of landing spots in that late second, early third that Jalen Royals could do. And we've been through his story, kind of started. No one really wanted him. Goes to like a military academy, like a JUCO kind of school, and then comes out and has just an absolutely monstrous year in only, 6 games, I think he played before exiting with an ankle injury. And he put up the stats of an entire season, essentially. So this is somebody who undoubtedly would have gotten more buzz had he played the entirety of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong now that I'm thinking about it. He got injured early and missed the entirety of the season, correct?
I think he played in 7 games.
It was like 6-7 games in, basically missed the back half of the season.
You look at those 7 games.
Yeah, it's otherworldly what he was doing.
It's dumb. It's stupid is what it is.
And I don't care if he was in the Mountain West. Was probably
they played Boise State, and he tore up Boise State.
Yeah, there's so much to love, and he's going to be at the Senior Bowl. He's going to be putting on his tape, and I think he's going to be a guy that gets a better draft capital than a Xavier Restrepo.
Wow, that's bold, man. And if you want Xavier Restrepo, I'm just going to break the seal on these tight ends.
I was hoping you'd let it go one more.
So I'll go ahead and take Tyler Warren. Again, we've talked about him on this channel before. Like, if he goes round 1 to the Broncos or the Colts, he belongs here. I mean, he probably belongs even higher than this, to be honest with you. But the Colts, it's not a great landing spot if you think about it, because we aren't really certain that Anthony Richardson is going to be the long-term quarterback. Then outside of that, I would probably think that he's the number 3 or number 4 option in the passing game, behind Michael Pittman, behind Josh Downs.
Yep.
So it's not great for fantasy, but I cannot deny the draft capital at this point compared to some of the other options on the board. And I do like the player enough to take him at the 204, so I'll shoot it back to you at the 205.
I'll keep going with the tight ends, and I'll take Colston Loveland. So
Perfect.
my thought was kind of to take whichever tight end you didn't take there. And again, a little hard to ignore the draft capital. Chargers in the round 1. They were I just had pass rate over expectation pulled up. Here it is. They were, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 13th in pass rate over expectation last year, which basically means in situations where a lot of teams are running the ball, the Chargers are passing the ball. So good stuff to start. And this is without really a good core. They had McConkey, and that was basically it. They were funneling to Hayden Hurst, to Will Dissly, to Quinshon Judkins, anybody they could, really, and getting a Colston Loveland in the first round, who is a guy that can block and catch passes. That'd be very solid for both fantasy and in the Chargers. I do prefer Harold Fannin to Loveland in my rankings, but round 1 draft capital into a situation where he's going to get a lot of playing time and potentially targets, wide open target distribution, hard to ignore that.
I'll keep the train rolling and take Restrepo. I like Restrepo a lot. Every time I compare him to Ricky Pearsall, everybody's like, "Oh, is he gonna get shot?" So I don't know, man. But he, which is kind of a weird thing to say, I guess. I don't know.
Very.
But anyway, not that we're disparaging people who talk about people getting shot, but I think he's a really good player, and I think the Ricky Pearsall comp, I think there's a real chance that he does fall. Like, he could be the forgotten man, especially if Jalen Royals gets really good draft capital, or Isaiah Bond goes to a really nice landing spot in the second round. He might be one of these forgotten receivers, and there's a real chance, because this happened with Ricky Pearsall last year, that he's sitting there in the middle of the second round, and I think he's a better player than that. And for that reason, in Superflex leagues, these second round, third round, even fourth round rookie picks, now's the time. And I know I'm getting off track here, but now's the time to scoop up some of these picks if your leagues have rolled over, because you're going to want to take shots. We're in the middle of the second round, and I'm looking at probably at least 3 or 4 running backs, probably more, probably like 5 or 6 running backs that I'm like, I wouldn't mind having them on my Dynasty team just to see what happens,
Right.
So anyway, it's definitely going to be, you're going to want to take a shotgun approach, I think, in this rookie draft. Like Maddie Kiwoom was saying on our program, which you should go watch that episode when we're done with this one.
At 207, I'll take my guy, Brashard Smith. SMU running back, my personal most excited to watch at the Senior Bowl. That's going to be the biggest thing for whether or not he's going to make this draft capital at a 207 rookie pick work. If he can work his way up into the third round, I think he should be a second round pick, locked and loaded. After that, all bets are off. But has that profile, small school guy, played receiver, transfer, I don't actually, now at the top of my head, I can't really remember where he was at before SMU. I remember he played receiver. Feel free to fill in my memory if you can, but
sure, I'm on.
Transferred over, played running back for his first year at SMU, had a heck of a year, looked good against good competition, against Clemson in the ACC title game, against Penn State, albeit not good stats. Again, playing from behind and playing against a very good Penn State front seven, but can play in both phases of the game, and very similar to Tyrone Tracy and what he's done. He can play special teams if you need him to. He's going to be able to catch passes. He has a lot of natural vision as a back. You watch him run, and you wouldn't expect that he is a transfer that played receiver and then transferred to running back. And you can play him at so many spots. You can put him in the slot. You can put him outside. You can put him at back. A versatile weapon. And when versatility is so key in today's NFL, I have to think that NFL teams are going to see what Tyrone Tracy did. They're going to see what Brashard Smith hopefully does here at the Senior Bowl, and they're going to take notice, and they're not going to let him be, another 5th-round pick. Some team is not going to let that happen.
Yeah, he transferred from Miami, Florida.
Okay, as soon
where
as
there
I
just
said small
wasn't
school, I was like, that's not right. But
yeah, but just not an opportunity there for him. And then he transfers to SMU and immediately has an impact. So good sign for sure there. I'm going to take Jordan James. I still have him ranked pretty highly. You remember there was this guy at Oregon last year. What was his name? Like Bucky something.
Bucky Irving, I believe.
Yeah, there was that guy at he was at Oregon, and this year Jordan James 1,267 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns. So I don't think the 49ers need a running back, but this is one of the better running backs that can cut and find the running lanes. Good size, 5'10", 210 pounds. It's about perfect in terms of size. So can catch passes, 26 receptions this year. So I like Jordan James quite a bit. I'm probably ahead of consensus on him, but I'll throw it back to you at the 209.
I'll take a shot on Tez Johnson.
Okay.
So Ollie Gordon, a lot of tread on the tire. Isaiah Bond, I can't get behind a serious NFL prospect having one catch in a very serious game. Only had 500 yards this year after transferring. We saw some rumors to like maybe the Cowboys, and if he gets really good draft capital on a great landing spot, I'll change my opinion. But Tez Johnson, better than Evan Stewart in my opinion. He does profile as more of a pure slot guy, being 5'10", 165, so he's got some sizing up to do. But we saw him against some good defenses. He put up 100 yards against Illinois. He put up 181 yards on 11 receptions against Penn State with a 48-yard touchdown, I believe. So there's a lot to love there. He's got big playability. He's got some good route running skills. If he gets, late day 2 draft capital, some like late 3rd-round draft capital, which is probably close to where he's going to be based on initial estimates and rankings, barring anything tragic. So, give me Tez Johnson here.
And I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it, man. He was 2nd in the nation in rushing yards this year. I know the 40 time's not going to be what we want. I know the profile is not going to be sexy at all, but there's just something to be said for a running back that can just get the job done. And he might turn into Peyton Hillis. He might. I don't know. But damn it, just give me Cam Scatabo. Because I want him.
Yeah.
And this would be
I probably should take him there.
The section of the draft where I would be all in on taking him. Why not? At the 210.
Right.
Late 2nd, early 3rd round, perfect range to take somebody like him. And because he's probably, I can already promise you, like he's probably going to be a day 3 pick. And I don't know if Dynasty gamers are necessarily going to forget about him, but I can almost promise you, because this happens every year, they're going to poo-poo the athletic profile. And just beware of that, because we've made that mistake before, and I'm not making it again. Okay. Right. Sometimes players are just good at football, and there's a chance he's just good at football. So I'll take a chance on him here.
All right. My last pick, I will go ahead and I'll bite the bullet and take Ollie Gordon. I'll take a 1,700-yard rusher who the team was massively degraded from 2023 going into 2024. A lot of the struggles in Oklahoma State were really his fault. I know there were some off-the-field concerns with what happened with the DUI. Hopefully, he's a young kid. Hopefully, again, not a mistake you would like to make in life. Thankfully, no one was hurt. And, you just got to hope that he learned from that experience and moves on. But a lot of tread on the tires. You got a 285 carry season and a 190 carry season, along with a short 62 carry season his freshman year. So a lot of tread on the tires, but I think that along with the recency bias of his performance last year is tanking his draft stock a little bit with running backs. As we know, it's more important just to see it than to see it consistently. So we know what he can do. If he lands in a good spot, then he deserves to be a second round pick. I think there are worse ways you can spend the 210 and the 211 than guys like Scatabo and Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, and for the last pick, I'll throw up another guy that's going to be zooming up draft boards, and he's zooming up my rankings as well, because I'm leaning into the strength of the class. DJ Giddens from Kansas State, back-to-back seasons, over 1,200 yards, over 1,300 rushing yards this year, back-to-back seasons over that 20 reception threshold that we like to see, or that the advanced scouts like to see. 10 touchdowns last year, 7 touchdowns this year. It's hard. It's another one of these running backs I just want to take chances on. And like Taj Brooks, I want to see, like, I wouldn't mind drafting him in this range either. Raheem Sanders is interesting. Like, we didn't even get to Isaiah Bond or Elikai Manor or Evan Stewart or like. So the point is, in these super flex drafts, these rookie drafts, I think there's going to be some nice value to be had here in the late second, third round. So if somebody's not willing to, keep those picks, go take advantage.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we did it. Where are we? We're almost at an hour. So I think I'll scroll up just so you can see it. The first round there: Ashton Jeanty, Tet McMillan, Kaleb Johnson, Cam Ward, Luther Burden, Omarion Hampton, Emeka Egbuka, Shedeur Sanderd, Quinshon Judkins, Travis Hunter, TreVeyon Henderson, Tre Harris. And then in the second round, Dylan Sampson, Devin Neal, Jalen Broyles, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Xavier Restrepo, Brashard Smith, Jordan James, Tez Johnson, Cam Scatabo, Ollie Gordon, and DJ Giddens. Any final thoughts? I just now noticed we didn't use the landing spot column. That's okay.
Yeah, all right.
Was completely unnecessary, but
no, anyway. I think as our previous drafts have gone, like, these are going to continue to change quickly and drastically. We're just going to keep learning new information, and it's not necessarily going to be about our prospect grades on some of these people, although we are diving more into film and stuff. So some of that's going to change. We're obviously going to hear more about, draft capital and stuff. So just a fair warning that, if you're new to the Dynasty game, if you're new to following rankings, this is pretty normal. And if you see, from one show to the next, our rankings, differ, then, we're not flip-flopping. We're just trying to continuously be kind of ahead of the game. It's January 20th, so we're not going to ever be kind of hard set on anything here.
Well said. As information comes in, we have to change our process, and just like if Travis Hunter gets drafted by the Giants, that completely changes things, because I think that's one of the worst situations for him. So that's why he fell in this draft and why I passed on him multiple times. So I think that's a good example of that. But there's other news that'll come out too, like maybe if Travis Hunter is going to just play corner, then obviously he'll be off our boards entirely. And obviously Nicholas Singleton going back to school, so that changes things, weakens the running back class a little bit, although it's still strong. I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you liked it and want more of it. You can follow Matt Babich on Twitter at Babich_Matt10. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth_DIEWOLD, and you can follow the show on Twitter at FF Dynasty Table. For myself, for Matt Babich, thank you again, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye now. Nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers.